I'm Duval, a fellow at Demos and the author of Next Generation Democracy, What the Open Source Revolution Means for Power, Politics, and Change. In the 90s we learned about Linux and this global volunteer force creating an operating system that rivaled and moved past anything that Microsoft could create. And we know about Wikipedia, we know about people writing these articles who just in their spare time for a love of the subject. But what hasn't happened is this next step of not just using the internet to collect information about what is, but to engage people in a discussion about what should be in our society. And I think that the next step in the open source revolution, what Next Generation Democracy is all about, is taking that open source ethic and enabling people to participate and design a better society for themselves and their city and their state nationally, and really taking that empowerment offline to ground level everyday life. The aftermath of Hurricane Katrina and how New Orleans responded was really a turning point that I think laid bare the failure of really centralized top-down organizing methods and the potential for much more distributed, empowered, citizen-led efforts to find each other, to have the city recover and do long-term rebuilding planning. This organization, America Speaks, that helped facilitate the Unified New Orleans Plan, which is where all these people came together and really made the mayor and the city council make decisions in their interest. They were bringing people in by video conference from Houston, from Atlanta, from cities all over the country that people had moved to, and they hadn't yet been able to return, but it was still their city, and they wanted to have a voice in what that city would be, so that when they returned, they felt invested in part of it. And that was a really powerful example of what democracy in the 21st century can be. Using the tools of the internet, but really using relationships and getting to know people that you otherwise wouldn't meet and deliberating about important public issues rather than just leaving it up to a city councilor or a mayor who may or may not represent your interests. Now we live in an age where anybody who wants to can fairly quickly, independently become an expert on any issue that they care about. And communication costs with the internet are nearing zero. And so I think that challenges and forces us to rethink the very structure of our government, not our representative democracy. That is certainly the base and the core, but supplementing it with opportunities to engage citizens directly in decision making and policy making, so that we're getting the best ideas on the table, and having the public will really drive what we decide to do as a country rather than default, which is what the people who give the most in corporate and personal donations want to see happen. Next Generation Democracy is the stories of inspiration of amazing leaders from across the country, even in other countries across the world, that are saying this is how we can solve problems together in really productive, collaborative ways. And it's an inspiring story that I just felt totally humbled to be able to share, and hope to talk with you about on the road.